Hey everyone, welcome to the Bets First Golf PGA Championship betting preview. I'm Ryan Noonan, excited to be joined as always by my buddy, the director of all things here, content related at BetSperts. It is Andy Molitor in the studio today. Andy, Major Championship Golf, big boy golf course, big boy card. Let's go. How we doing?
Yeah, it's funny too because we talked about this maybe a month or so ago. It used to be like I'm still pumped for this because it's very exciting, especially Sunday. The coverage is better, but it used to be like, oh man, there's way more things to bet on now because it's a major and the books open up the playbook a little bit. Now you have this shit every week. It's not quite as exciting for that, but obviously still very, very excited to see a major championship, see this course redone a little, see if they actually did make it super difficult, and see all the best golfers minus. I mean, who are we all missing at this point? It is Harris English's hip, Phil Mickelson's ego, Paul Casey, and is Casey out yet, or has he pulled out yet, or is it just a matter of time? I can't remember. All his withdrawals are running together, and I believe one other player did pull out of like the top 50-ish. So it is a stacked field, a tough course, and I'm very pumped.
Very pumped as well. Also joining us, as always, your favorite golf tout, ready to go from the Mayo Media Network. It is Geoff Feinberg. Geoff, how we doing, bud?
I'm doing very well, Ryan. It's it's a major week, ready to go. I love all the courses the PGA Championship has been sending us to the last few years, and this one seems to check all the boxes as us golf betting fans, we become like course experts. Like it's like people become college basketball experts when the bracket drops. Like we become venue experts on these iconic American courses for 3 days each year. I just get my expertise by watching the Golf Channel show Tiger Woods winning replays, but I enjoy taking in what everyone else has to say.
Yeah, that's an interesting part of this one is that we don't see this often, obviously, and that's kind of the allure of major championship golf outside of Augusta is that we don't see these courses annually. So we do become, the experts in the space and time, but we really are looking at a very, very different golf course. If you've done any research or done anything so far this week, you've heard about the Gil Hanse renovations and what they've done to this course, stealing some trees, widening the fairways. And I think the thing that continues to get brought up, which I think is going to be really interesting, is really what they did around the green, really basically eliminating the collar of rough around it, creating the short grass and the false fronts that is going to basically lead away from the hole and away from these really small greens. It's going to be one of these spots where it should be major championship golf. You should be firing throughout the bag. You're going to need your short game. You're going to have to be dialed in. It is a beast of a par 70, like 70, almost 7,600 yards from the tips. That's a big boy golf course with some like par fives that are stretching out to 600 yards. So, and these par threes as well, like 215, 230, just a wild course. It's going to be exciting to watch, Andy.
Yeah, I think both par fives are like almost 6.25, which is, I mean, there's just nobody. And the way they have the hole set up, even if it was just a straight downhill hole, I'm not sure somebody's getting there in two anyway. So, I mean, those are all, you're not going to see any two-shot par fives. You're not going to see any par threes where just everybody's able to, it's basically a pitch for, some of these 140-yard par threes. It's just pitching contest for these guys. Hard par threes. And like you said, I read a couple different accounts of what they did to the greens. I don't fully understand how this happens over the course of many years, but I believe them. It does. It's just like the edges of the greens kind of built themselves a little bit of almost a mini berm where it was like a little crater where anything that hit the edge was destined to kind of trickle inward towards the middle of the green. And they just shaved all that off, which I instantly read that. I'm like, oh man, I'm just like, am I just crossing Victor off my list like right now? If we're going to just take every single green on the course and give them all false fronts and sloped sides, and it's already been 90 degrees here and dry, and these are going to be hard, sloped, and small, like this guy's going to be chipping all day. What chance does this kid have? So instantly reading about the course, all I could think about was Victor, but there are some intricacies to it that I think will benefit some of these guys that have a longer drive that they can actually control. The less spray-y bomb and gougers, I think, can
Sure.
do all right. But yeah, it is an absolute monster in length. That's for sure.
And they've also talked about how the humidity at this time of year, Geoff, is a little harder for that rough to grow where they really want it to be, super penal. So yeah, I mean, obviously you'd rather be, in the short stuff. You would want to be that at any place. You'd want that at Pebble Beach. But again, that seems to be a little bit of a misnomer this week, where you maybe don't have to necessarily find fairways all the time, because that would be a pretty small field that's going to be long and straight in a given week.
Yeah, I mean, it's a major championship. I don't really, until I have a reason to pivot from my strategy when we're talking about a PGA Championship or a US Open, honestly, always looking for the same players, which is kind of why maybe I bet the same players, and that could be a fault on me. But I just mean the player profile. I'm still looking for long. I'm looking for straight. I'm looking for guys that I would trust to make a clutch up and down if required. It's always required. You even saw, KH Lee had to make a few of them to win the Byron to keep off the ultra high end players that were on his tail. You cannot win without being able to do that. So I would never bet a guy I didn't trust to do that. But I'm still just betting the guys here that are, in my opinion, going to avoid the trouble the most, going to be able to find their balls on the green, hit a ton of green in regulation, require the putt luck, obviously, but hopefully when they're getting burned, it's birdie putts. And there's the guys that I'm going to be backing this week are guys that, how do you put this? When there's that hole that's playing like for a half stroke over par, I'm going to have the 14-foot birdie putt. I don't know if I'm going to make it, but that's what these guys do on those types of holes. So that's sort of where I'm looking for this week. That being said, I don't really have that many official bets in yet. So I could do a lot of things. It's still hard for me to make decisions because every time I do deep dive it, which can be dangerous, like the door widens as to who I want to invite in. Because it does seem like it is going to be a second shot golf course. And there are a lot of great players who might not be, sometimes live on the edges off the tee or around the green. But if it's a second shot golf course, then to me, it gives these guys a lot of life, especially guys that, again, comes back to it. I'm obviously going to have to trust on Sunday. They're going to have to make that 13-foot par putt to keep momentum, to save it, to keep the big dogs away.
Yeah, and also, it does become, everything becomes a second shot golf course. If you want to boil everything down, it's like you're not scoring. And I looked at that. Obviously,
good approach play. It's like the evergreen comment to betting a golf tournament, I guess. Yeah,
but I mean, everyone understands how golf works. Your second shot needs to build off your first shot, and obviously it's going to be so important to get that second shot to get you anywhere where you're not worried about, oh shit, I have to get up and down from a nasty spot here. Like finding yourself with 30-foot birdie putts, it's going to feel pretty good because it's like, I got through it. It's like Jeff said,
what do you think the winning score is going to be?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, actually.
What's the winning score? Because that goes a long way into picking the winner.
Yeah.
It depends on the weekend winds. If the winds don't show up like we think, 7, 8, 9, but if it gets nasty and windy, the way this is set up, get 4. I mean, this could be one of those. You remember that a few years it was one man on the right side of par, and that was it. We could have one of those where somebody wins this at 2 under. That's not out of the realm of possibilities if this weather gets nasty. So I looked at these tee shots to set up these second shots that are so important. Fuck, there's a lot of tough tee shots on this course. You're going to need someone who can. You're going to have to put it somewhat long. You can't club down here and expect to. You don't want 220-yard shots into the green every hole. So you have to kind of give it the piss. But if you're spraying it, this is some nasty rough that's going to grab your club and just it's like the other says in the chat, a grinder.
The expensive problem. I'll call it here the expensive problem, because it can add up. You could play, for the price of play big boy, But the expensive problem for me sometimes comes where my mind gets to like, okay, 4, 5, 6 under. Then it pretty much in my mind, I like to bet all the golfers that I just personally like and I trust 1 under a day. Like shoot even par, you're right in this on Sunday. Like I know the field is stronger, but it's almost like how you bet my mind, like thinking about the Honda. Like, no, you just wake up, you got to shoot 1 under par. You got to just think you can do that, and that's going to leave you set up perfectly. It's not the Honda, but I just, yeah, it's creating maybe an expensive problem for me is all I'll say. But it's major week. They always get expensive, and I still haven't put any gas in my car since February, so I try to justify my losing bets somehow.
I'm going to put gas in the car this week for sure. I'm with you because I have the mindset of I think a big boy wins here. So I'm taking shots at the top of the board. That's naturally an expensive problem. And then it's a major week, so you stretch a little longer, and naturally you feel like, well, this is what the Max Homa win does, is that it lets you go a little longer at the PGA. So taking more shots at the top of the board. Hopefully we are not donating and we are, catching that back. So also want to remind folks before we get into the card here, you can still register to win the promotion with Paige. betspertsgolf.com/newsletter. Sign up for that newsletter. It is awesome. Andy does a tremendous job with that every week. Do not get cute. Don't click in, sign up for the newsletter, and then try to unsubscribe. You got to be in there to be able to win when we pick that drawing next Monday. Got the course, announced that yesterday with Paige. Geneva National up in southern Wisconsin. Beautiful 54-hole layout up there. More details coming on Paige's social today, Andy, on that announcement.
Yeah, I'm looking. This isn't far from me. Maybe I'll pop over and say hi if you win. Like whoever, if the winner is listening.
It's like an hour for me.
Yeah, Geneva National to Rochester. I'm just doxing myself here. I'm guessing like 2.5.
Yeah,
4. Oh no, I thought it was closer to Madison. It's practically in Rockford.
Yeah,
I still like Lake Geneva is a nice area. So
it is.
three courses down there, designed by Trevino Palmer and one other one who I'm leaving out. I feel bad because it's
Gary Player.
Gary Player. Yeah, I actually, you don't fuck him. I don't feel bad leaving out Gary Player at all. So you get to play all 54. 18 of those will be with Miss Sporanic. So get signed up for the newsletter, and we'll draw some winners on Monday. That'll be fun. And hopefully on Monday we have a winner too. Should we see if we have any crossover? Because I've made my whole. I said no long shots here. I just said I can't take it. There's guys I like. I looked at it. It's like, fuck, I like Mito. Mito can't beat this field.
Because it's the profile. Like, I'm betting on this profile.
Yes.
But that guy...
Mito's a top 20 for me. I can't bet him.
The Mito profile is what you're betting. It's the profile combined with the ceiling. It's the same with, like, I look at the Bobby Max, like, 225. Like, he does the same things. I, like, am tempted to take a look at Dustin Johnson and all these great players. And 6 years ago, it felt like these events, these PGA Championships, US Opens were like tailor-made for Dustin Johnson. Now, since then, there's like 40 guys that are like DJ Light, and some of them have even gone on to surpass him, and they're ahead of him on the odds board in terms of like the profile they bring to a golf course. So Mito, yeah, you throw that profile and that ceiling of like you might be great at like 200 to 1, and I know exactly where your head goes, Andy. Trust me. I'm there. I'm living in it in the freeway right now.
I get a couple of those guys that fit the profile. I think probably end up pretty chalky as far as like DFS goes for sure, but they feel very solid down in that range. But let's start at the very. Well, go ahead, Geoff.
Well, I just like the one overriding. Well, just the something about it. Like people talk about the course, and I've taken in a lot of great info. I don't pretend to deep dive it. I like watching YouTube videos of overhead stuff and that sort of thing. But the sort of stuff that I like look for catches my eye. And you could argue the sample isn't very big, and you can argue that these aren't all professional men events that I'm about to reference here. But 5 of the past 7 tour stops at Southern Hills, the winner led after 18. 5 of the 7, the winner led after 17. 7 of the last 7, the winner led after 36. That is crazy to me. That's crazy. So there's something about this place that if you...
I'd love to see those scores be like, did somebody just have a... And granted, this course didn't play as hard as it will this year.
No,
because that's where my mind went. Sometimes these tough courses, somebody just has a round where they absolutely redline and peak. They chip one in from the fairway. They end up going like 6 under on a course where nobody else is going to do. And then you just defend the fort for 3 days.
You're not wrong. And when we get to any event, any of these events, from the WGC to a major to even last week, and KH Lee fought off Hideki and Spieth and JT, yada, yada, yada. But what my point being is I always feel like people like this is going to be the score. It's going to be so hard. On a Tuesday morning, I cannot not be convinced that one of these elite players, top 25 players, specifically top 10 players in the world, even going back like top 30 guys, doesn't have their ceiling. I don't care what the golf course is. If Justin Thomas, just as an example, or John Rahm or Scotty Scheffler are playing to their ceiling. I don't care where the golf course is. I don't care what the scorecard says in terms of yardage. It's going to get, it can look like a tiger for 4 hours because they're capable of that in a 4-hour window and for a weekend.
Yeah, and that's all it takes. But that might, in the context of the scorecard, still be par, right? Like if everyone else is kicking the can down the road and, popping up 74s, 75, 76s, and you're out there dialing in at 70, you're going to be feeling pretty good about yourself. That's the tricky part this week.
It's reverse Byron Nelson. Like somebody made a really good point. When JT had that bogey late, somebody said that bogey might as well be a quad. It's the same kind of thing where a lot of these pars are going to feel like birdies. Like just by birdieing this hole, by just shooting par over like a 3-hole stretch, you might be gaining a good chunk on the field because that 3-hole stretch is playing like, maybe 7/10, maybe a full stroke over par. And, even once we get past the cut and you get rid of some of this fluff where, club pros and some of the older players and Ricky Fowler, things like that end up going home. I had to throw a drive by it. I had to throw a drive by at Ricky there.
Yeah, no, you are. I guess that made me lose my place. The Ricky, Ricky drive by. I feel like I just took some shrapnel. Yeah, I don't know. He's got to figure it out, and now he's got decisions in his life that involve: do I want to get paid to actually golf and make pretty good money? Although from who it's from. But that very well could cost him Puma and a lot of his other deals that he can just turn into a probably very profitable lifestyle here. Still being connected with the PGA Tour potentially, right? Like I'm curious to see how the sponsors for some of those European guys making the move, but that's not for today's PGA Championship show. Have you bet it? Have you bet anything yet? And my main question, I've seen Ryan's bets. Like, who is the worst golfer you've bet on? And by worst, I want you to just use longest odds. The longest odds that I have bet on thus far would be Tommy Fleetwood at 130 to 1. Ryan's actually put that in.
I placed a couple of bets for Geoff. So I know.
And what's great is like the guys that, because I say this all the time, like I almost have like by default like 2 cards. Like this is the cards where like this is what I think is going to happen. I try to use my brain power, and then there's this other card where it's like, if the Chargers are in a playoff game, like I'm only betting things one-sided. Like I'm not betting Herbert over interceptions. I'm not betting, Eckler over or under, those sorts of things. Like it's a one-way bet, and that's where my Fleetwood 130, Finau at 80 have come in, and I could complete the trifecta, who are all backed by Ben Cooley this week, which is just put so much air in my tires for these guys. But I even saw he's backing Berger, and I got, the polar bear site up here has got like a Berger 70. So some other tempting friends and family moves that I've made. Fleetwood's the biggest one, Andy. The true one I've made is Cantley. I've bet the 22-1. I think after Scotty Scheffler, him or Justin Thomas have been the two best players this year. I don't think I need the putt luck with Justin Thomas or with Cantley as much as I do need from Thomas. The major resume isn't nearly as nice as Thomas's is. But I just trust Cantley outside of a blip around the Players Championship and that bad wave, cold weather, kind of put him into a little funk for like a week or two. And you can long range it to the FedEx Cup like no one has been. And he's I don't want to say a nose hair. So let's just say like a decent sized fingernail from having a close to Scotty Scheffler resume, which is about the second best, like the nicest thing you could say, which makes him
the playoffs last year, like the dominance he showed right at the end of the year. And he was close at.
He lost the playoff to Scheffler at Phoenix. He lost the playoff to Spieth at Heritage because he got plugged in the bunker. Zurich, I'm not even here to be like, you hear I didn't even mention he's off a win like 2 weeks ago. It is what it is. But as we all saw, Phil won off a Champions Tour win. So you could win anywhere now. And it almost, as we mentioned last week, the field last week almost gave us like this new player kind of realizes just like a win anywhere works. And there's so many of them were out there last week trying to chase a win because they know how hot they get after a win. So that's my case for Cantley at the top. I have the Will Zalatoris bet 365 bet boost at a 50. And I ended up on Hideki last week. So just watching him on Thursday, I had sort of found the 50. And then by like an hour into his round Thursday, I said, let's go bet that 50. But here's the problem. They didn't accept my full stake. And I don't like bet tiny, but I don't bet a number that my stake shouldn't be accepted. So they took a large portion of it. They didn't take all of it. And then before I could even like call a buddy who's also got this book up north here, they slashed it to what it should be. So I own some Hideki 50 as well, which I'm really excited about. But there are a lot of guys that I want to bet, and we could talk through them, and they're in the 20s and they're in the 40s, and I could be moved anywhere.
There are a ton of guys in that. Even like the 15 to 40 range is like I can make convincing cases for this man to win. And my biggest regret, my biggest just FOMO that's gonna rag on me is like not betting some of these guys on Sunday. I don't spend a lot of time looking at the next tournament's outright prices because a lot of them don't exist. Kind of I get into a rhythm and you forget that this is a major. Shit's up for months. And I should have been hammering some because I knew I was going to bet Hideki. I knew I was going to bet Rory. Like some of these prices were better on Sunday. So, I mean, just cautionary tale. Don't be Andy. Don't F up and make your.
It can go both ways. You always expect for a readjust. I would say.
I know, but all the guys I bet went the one way. Like I got the worst of the number.
I mean, Rory's a tough one in the sense that the books are kind of starting to shorten him, and he's one of the players, his form is sort of making other players forgotten at the moment. Hideki, I was like, I don't want to call it strategy, but that was part of like, if I see he's healthy here, like I am going to take this number because also the early looks I did last week at Southern Hills, pointed to as anytime you sort of look at a long golf course that demands off the sort of complete game, Hideki sort of pops, and there were numbers that just were, I guess, based off of injured Hideki. But I don't think the board adjusted, and I'm sort of surprised, to be honest. So
yeah, and that's what I said that about. I said that about Hideki last week. I'm like, man, if he comes out and it's like, oh, he's healthy. Like the cupping and all that is over. He's fine. He looks like his movement's good. I'm probably going to play him next week. And just like I don't know what I was doing, waiting. I was gardening. You know what? Somebody had to put the tomatoes in. Like Sunday was gardening.
And I got to just throw this at you because I bet Rory at the Masters, and if Rory wins, like a few players, sort of like JT, like it'll feel like it kind of did feel like it was set up perfectly. The lead-in form, the lead-in results. You bet on Rory, you're playing to the ceiling, and Rory's ceiling should make you maybe not worry about this. But Rory doesn't win events that the winning score is under 10 under, and Rory is a historically bad starter in golf tournaments. As Justin Ray magnified those crazy to par stats Thursday and then the Friday through Sunday numbers, not just the Masters, at all of them. And your perception is reality when you play all those events back in your head. And then, as I was alluding to, those numbers about how you got to start here. So there's two things kind of working against Rory's Mo. But when Rory wins golf tournaments, he wins them by 5 strokes. Andy, and like you should almost look for like a Rory by a field goal, because Rory doesn't win an event on a hard golf course by a stroke. He wins it by literally us being like he's on a different goddamn golf course. Yeah. Maybe I'm trying to remember the Rory that might not exist anymore. This Rory can still win majors, but that's what I get the vibe from on Rory. And now I got in my head, maybe I should ask around for like a super Rory exotic.
I have one book that this is the weirdest thing that I've probably experienced in the world of betting at anywhere. It's an offshore that is operating. I've taken withdrawals from it this year. Like, they're fine. Everything about them is fine. They're fully operational. They're not accepting. You cannot sign up for this book for some reason. They will not accept a new account. Seems like a terrible business model, but I just always think of them because they put up prices for all the majors for the wire to wire, and you see that more now. That was always a hard one to find. I used to bet those all the time because it's like, here's a guy who's like the favorite. Oh, wire to wire though, like that's a huge price.
It was like the week after Neiman won at Riviera, and Bet365 started their new bet boost thing, which isn't like, it's just part of the competition in the marketplace. That's nice, and you hope it's your guy, and it's sort of a fun game that they play. But that they boost these wire to wires, and I'm like, did Neiman going wire to wire like make them think this is a thing? Because it's an embarrassing bet to begin with. But
awesome.
We did mention those early starts. I've kind of joked I'm not a first round leader bettor. I kind of look at first round leaders. I've said this many times through the years, that it's something I either want to do like every week or not do at all, because it feels like you're just that deep. Listen, betting golf outrights weekly for the amount of weeks we do it is like degen. It's like we're at the horse track just going through pats of bucks.
I love the horse track. So
but I just mean like it's a level, like it's just a.
No, I know.
You know what I mean. Now it's not like my body was gonna bet baseball for 365.
Poor Ryan doesn't even have Arlington anymore. No, I get what it like with the.
But the first round leaders like more even degen than the outright aspect of it. So I just have chosen not to like super parlay them. Now again, if you do it every week, because I just feel like you can't get up and like miss the shoot ever. On your like first round leader guys, but based on the history here, maybe you do gotta like play a couple quarter bets on your winner or the guys you expect to play great.
Yeah, we'll have a first round leader article, first round leader model up at BetSperts Golf on the site this week. Klaus hit Munoz at 80 last week, so hopefully we'll replicate that. He's been working on this model for a couple years and is excited that we've finally release that into the wild. So
he was pretty pumped about that, and I do like the way he does it. It's a bit of a, and I don't want to like downplay what we did as a team there by having an 80-1, but he takes an approach where he finds a handful of guys, 10-ish. It's like these longer odd prices.
Yep.
These are guys who are going to compete today, and those guys either end up at the top of the leaderboard or the very bottom. Like, they are the cash or ash players. They're the guys a lot of those guys aren't ending up in the middle. Like they are either going to fly like the Phoenix or sink like the Titanic. And we got a Phoenix last week, and Munoz was. It's the best sweat too is when you get a first round leader in the morning, and you have to sit through 75 other golfers. But after that, it's like, man, are we really sweating at 59? Like that's not a thing. A couple people came out though. Who was the guy who was like 6 under through 6 with the back-to-back eagles? Like, fuck, what is going on with this course? This is a pitch and putt that stinks. But congrats to Ron for that, and we'll look forward to it again. I'm with Geoff. I can't do it because it is like lottery ticket shit. Like you have to take that approach where you're meticulously betting like 10 guys with a set amount of money that you split up between them, or you just throw one dart once in a while because it's funny. And there's no in between. Like I can't fuck with it.
Yeah.
I made one this year. I don't know. There was like everyone was on the same thing. It didn't end well. It could have been like some morning Russell Henley or something. I was like, okay, you guys got me on this, but I'm not, I don't normally do it. But again, back to the board. I'm kind of surprised we didn't see the drift that I thought we might on a lot of guys. And what's funny is going back to Christmas, the darlings of this event were Morikawa and Hovland, and we're hearing, I think they're both kind of being, forgotten in some respects. I mean, everyone's forgotten compared to Spieth. He's got more oxygen this week than Tiger. It's almost like we're now such entitled fucks that like we just take Tiger for granted. He's going to be at a major. Like, oh no, we're going to give Spieth the oxygen, which I guess like isn't wrong, but I don't know. We're here. It feels a little too much.
Did we use it all up in Georgia? Like it was heavy Tiger coverage. I think people are still excited, and I think it was Shackelford. He's on site. He was doing some Tiger reporting. Said like he obviously his legs still kind of messed up. He's not walking like he did when he was pre-accident, but he says he's bulked up. He's got some muscle to him. He said he looks pretty good. So I don't think I can actually bet Tiger to win, but God damn it. Now I'm going to talk myself into like.
Yeah, the thing about this versus the Masters is you don't have like the low hanging fruit at the end of the board here. You don't have like the 60-year-olds guys that are just kind of kicking around, and you have more of a, even though it's closer to a full field event, so it is a little bit different.
But it is a bit of a like not full field event because they allow a lot of past champions. There's about 20 PGA professionals. Yeah. I don't know. The actual
so it becomes more of an invitational than a full field event, but it's still pretty solid in comparison to the Masters. We're still dealing with probably 120 viable guys versus the 65 that we had at Augusta. So it's a little different. I get your point though. We do have the PGA professionals and definitely guys that are going to be hanging 90s out here possibly. Good for them.
Even they let every past champion play. I feel like as long as they want.
Yeah.
And no disrespect, those PGA pros that might shoot in the high 80s would kick my ass.
Yeah, so that's not disrespectful.
No disrespect.
It might be 140.
We're doing a show talking about outright golf betting. Like in the context of the show we're doing, there's just no respect. I guess just like that. But yes, obviously
that kind of leads me to a prop. I don't know if it was this one last year or the U.S. Open, but how they have some of these guys who end up getting to play like this. There's always a prop like that for highest round. And that becomes, it's like the opposite of first round leader. It becomes a fun sweat. Anytime you see somebody who goes like 4 over through 2 holes, you're like, all right, I need someone to shoot like 88 and a half, I think it was one year. And you're tracking these guys like, I need one more triple. There's a really hard stretch of holes coming up. Like, I'll for sure have some fun props this week that I normally don't bet for some small stuff. I'll put that in the Discord because nothing against those guys. Love those guys, but it is super fun to cheer against a guy playing golf who's, like 10 over through 10. You're like, I need 8 more bogeys.
So yeah, under 30-1. The only bet I do have is Patrick Cantlay, and I'd like to make other bets.
Yeah.
I do think I am kind of waiting for some peak moment potentially with a Dustin number. Last week being the first event he had back, a lot of things on the card other than pars, like a ton of birdies, a lot of sloppiness. I can talk myself into like just enough sloppiness out of the system for Dustin to roar. And Victor, again, like he was the chosen one, almost more than Scotty was for this event, the Oklahoma State ties. I know there are a lot of ugly things when coming to Victor, but you know, long and straight doesn't speak to anybody. You know, there are very few people who that will speak to. And the chipping thing, that's an enormous, unignorable fact. I guess if you do want to bet it, and I believe Mayo has, right? So right there, it's like, okay, I'm a Victor fan, and my buddy who I trust is like in and believing this week. And Mayo's not an easy sell for this sort of thing. He's also betting Morikawa too, because he's huge on that. But I'm like, sell me. Because I'm not a hard sell because I'm such a big fan of the guy. And he's like, okay, so it's all about the chipping. And he's like, the runoff areas are probably significantly more helpful to Victor than say like the Florida API rough hosels. If he's ever going to be comfortable chipping somewhere, it's probably here. So there is probably a level of comfort chipping here, and the runoffs are probably significantly more beneficial to him than say that greenside hosel of rough that you would find yourself in maybe at the US Open or in some of those other big contending moments we do speak of. Again, though, if you're betting on Victor, you're probably just betting on 67 greens and rag and win the same, almost the winning by a field goal joke that I, you know, can make sometimes to old school Rory feels like it can apply to Victor clearly.
Yeah, so the numbers bear it out. So again, looking the last 50 rounds, the Hovland and Morikawa thing is pretty simple. Hovland 134th in strokes gained around the green over the last 50. Morikawa 103rd. Right, they're both top 10 in approach. They're both top 10 in tee to green. The other guy that's a little bit further down the board that fits this profile, long and straight, can be absolutely dialed in with the irons. If Mayo, and you can make a case for those guys, Hovland and Morikawa, like Max Homa should be right in that mix because Homa is long and straight, and the only glaring weakness that we have on Homa is the around the green stuff, playing long courses, hard courses really, really well, right?
Yeah, but he's got a magic. Here's the thing. If you're a Homa guy, and I love Homa, I could cheer for him even without a bet, which kind of made it easier watching all you guys cash your tickets. Because it just shows you give us a little bit of fucking real personality and you can actually make fans. Forgetting the winners and the bettors that now adore you. He's got like, I don't know whether to call it like light. We got to call it light. We got to call it the light version of it. But he does feel like he's got a bit of that Magic Bean, Spieth, Cam Smith like in him in a clutch moment. Obviously those guys are much better long-term around the green, but you see it every time. Like he's a winner from that goddamn. I'll never let it. I mean, he missed the 2-foot putt to give us the chance, but the Riviera win versus Finau from behind a tree. Yeah, so he just has this knack to make these crazy pars that when you do bet Homa now, I think you're almost allowed to be like, no, I'm going to get that. Like for the win, like when you bet him to win, you think in your mind, no, I'm going to get that like when I need it. So we're good here.
Yeah, that's the only thing, like just from a statistical profile, if you're telling yourself the story at the top of the board with Morikawa and Hovland, I think it makes sense down the board to look at a Homa because you're looking at a very similar statistical profile. Maybe not, obviously not dialed in from an iron standpoint like those guys are, but again, long and straights, the history on tough courses. Let's circle back to the top of the board. Jeff, you and I have some commonality, which I feel good about. I also took Cantley at 22. That's still out there at MGM. It's mostly gone everywhere else. I also have Decky. I don't have Decky at 50, but Decky at 33 is gone for the most part as well. But again, mostly in the high 20s. Again, form is a fickle bitch, but if he is to carry it over, we'd like to see the 62 on a Sunday. Again, long irons. If we're going to have proximity over 200 yards, he's second on tour in the season. I think we get kind of twisted a little bit with Hideki, who can struggle with his putter, but his short game's tremendous. He is, an incredible around the green guy. So I love Hideki here. I took Zalatoris at 38. I love that I don't love that he missed the cut last week, but I do think that, we probably would have had maybe a 28 or a 25 on Zalatoris if he was, in the mid 20s and in the mix with those guys. So Zalatoris at 38. There's a 41 out there this morning on FanDuel on Zalatoris. So I thought that was going to be gone. He's 33 in most places. So 41 on our friends at FanDuel if you like Zalatoris. I also got a JT at 19. And that's kind of my top of the board with JT, Cantley, Decky, and Zal. I do have FOMO at the very, very top with Scheffler and Rahm. The Rahm stuff is a little bit of irons. They haven't been great, and he's not been great around the greens either. So, again, but then when you look at like proximity at 200 plus yards, he's been like by far, the best on tour on the course of the season. So short-term form, not great. But Geoff, is there any? I guess FOMO is not necessarily the right way to go because you still are pliable here. Like you said, you have some more bullets to fire. Do you think you're going tippity top of the board, or are you going to kind of go in that range that you typically find yourself at? What do you think?
So, JT, I don't know. I just don't want to bet it, but I see it, and it makes so much sense. The form and the results. And as I've said, too, in sort of debating the Rory thing, I'd almost rather just bet JT at the same price, or maybe even like reach to the shelf a little higher and bet Scheffler. So all these reasons that for me to like steer away from Rory are probably just going to lead to him winning, and I'd be happy for him because I'm a fan. So JT, I guess at this moment, I don't know. I'll always feel like sad about missing like Rahm having a big win, but it's like, I don't know. I'm not going to just bet that much. I don't want to bet what I need to bet on Rahm or Scheffler.
That's the tricky part because there are only two guys over the past 50 rounds rank inside the top 10 in both around the green and approach, and it's Scotty and JT. So again, if you're telling yourself the story that it's irons and to be able to scramble a little bit, pretty easy story to tell yourself.
Yep, 100%. We'll see. I don't know if those 19s were still available. Maybe I could find myself circling back a little, but we shall see. So no, you mentioned the guys. I'm on Cantley. I'm on Hideki. I'm on Will Zalatoris. Those are the bets that I'm in. Those are like the official bets that I have. I have bet Finau at 80 for a bit of, FOMO, Stan and Fleetwood 130. But the range that I am sort of obsessed with at the moment is always that 30 to 50 to 1 first time major winner, guys without a major win. I feel like at least since I have been making golf content, this has been the most successful range. Well, because I love to bet guys who don't win majors, which makes me annoyed to see like Brooks or Spieth win because they have so much already. And I want to see legacy flippers for other guys. So Neiman, long, straight, longer than you think.
Yeah.
Straight as you think. Around the green, at least statistically, is showing there's a great improvement. The bent grass, I think he's primed for it. Fitzpatrick. I mean, there have been at least 3 times this year I feel like, if the tournament went 40 more minutes, I think Matthew Fitzpatrick would have won. I just do believe everything continues to tick up. It's not really a guy or a face that I'm going to bet to win the PGA, but I'm swimming around it. Sam Burns at that 50 as well. I mentioned some big Berger numbers. So those are kind of the names that I do catch myself swimming around if I wanted to take multiples instead of potentially playing one at the very top. But outside of that, it's sort of north of like 80 and 100 for me when I'm doing my considerations.
Andy, I saw a tweet that looked like Spieth was going to find his way onto your card.
He did. I love him. I just want to cheer. I want to cheer for him. And his numbers and form are fine right now. It's sussed out. I played it.
He's been awesome.
He's been fine.
Yeah, he's
numbers perfect, form is perfect, location is perfect.
bent grass.
You would think,
grass,
like always,
grass
he
green.
won his U.S. Open at peak form, like when he was in his complete lightning rod heater. Forgetting the DJ thing, which still breaks my heart. He won it in peak form. And I felt the only way he could contend at a U.S. Open or a PGA would have to find himself in peak form again. And the tee to green, the driving, you can count on potentially getting the putt luck. Putt luck. The historically very good putter to finally pop for him. The around the green magic you're just sort of going to count on. So, and it's a part of the country he's just very familiar playing golf in. Those wins to all these Big 12 golfers, are comfortable in these types of conditions that they'll probably get thrown at. So normally guys of his skill set are almost like a disqualifier for me coming into a big event, but he's not. Like, he's so far past all of that now, and he gets the lucky greenside stuff. So I have to respect him and Cam Smith, and I'm living in a world where I'm anticipating but not betting Jordan Spieth, and I'll be off Twitter Sunday night.
I'll just delete your account. Somebody asked fair price on Tiger to make the cut. We were talking the cut earlier, how there's some dead wood here. And, it wouldn't surprise me if, some guys sneak through. Things happen. But I looked over at FanDuel. It's minus 140 for him to make, 112, plus 112 to miss. Probably pretty fair. Like, he played well enough at Augusta. He deserved to make the cut. And if he does struggle here, it's going to be the same thing where it's because he's tired of walking this long-ass course after 3 days. Like, I think he'll probably play pretty well the first couple of days. He was hitting the ball well. He was getting around. His rotation looked fine. He just can't walk good. So I think he ends up making the cut here. I'm not going to lay minus 140. I have better things to do with my money. Like, if I really want to bet him, maybe look for a top 40 price or something along those lines. But I have a lot of other guys I want to be betting top 20, top 30, top 40 before him. So that's just another. I'll cheer for him, I guess. And I'd like a fair price is probably minus.
I don't want to pick on him. I don't like picking on him like for a minus 110 bet. Like, I don't care enough to pick on him. I'm not going to bet that hard enough. I'm not emboldened in the stance. You always get a true feel of like, who are they going to give you a head-to-head against? Because they aren't going to give you one against like Tony Finau or Max, like anyone in and around his number, Louis Oosthuizen, Cam Young. I dare you to give me a Corey Connors. Like, that's sort of like the barometer. He's 60-1 to win. His head-to-heads are going to be against guys that are probably like 140-1. And I think someone showed me a picture of it was like versus Matt Kuchar. So that sort of kind of tells you all you need to know.
Andy, you took one shot there in Jeff's preferred range. You haven't taken any darts, but it looks like there's a Sam Burns.
That's my lowest odds, 50-1. I found a 50 I was happy with. He 35, 40 a lot of places. So Sammy Burns, last week stayed off him. Everybody liked him. I was close. I kind of just went against him. Not really against him. I just didn't use him in DFS at all. But yeah, we've talked about Rory. I love Rory. We talked about Jordy. I love Jordy. Those guys made the card at prices I hate, lower prices than I usually bet. I got a terrible Cam Smith price. So we talked about, going back to Augusta. How many guys were ever live to win that tournament? Like, if you want to really get into Friday and beyond, there are probably two guys that were ever live to win that tournament, and he was one of them. Like, that's good enough for me.
Yeah,
he's been to the mountaintop. Like, he's a winner. He has the equity. His form is fine, and he has the skill set to play well enough here. So Cam Smith at 22, I think, was the best I could find now. I know some other people. I feel like Ron got him at like 35-1 on Sunday. So I'd love to cheer along with Ron as he's road tripping in his convoy across the USA for the past few days, driving again. But that was pretty much it outside of what was my last one. I have to look now. Hideki, again, at the worst part of the number. And then, Sam Burns was my one shot. The guy that just missed was Daniel Berger. He's kind of a show favorite for us. I found a 75 I have him highlighted in a looking for Daniel Berger top 20 bets. That's definitely going to be on my card, a top 20 for DB.
There are a couple people who I respect greatly in the ecosystem. I mentioned Ben Cooley. Ben, he's one of the best. I'm sorry if I'm screwing that up. And Andy Lack, and they are both beholden to the Shinnecock comp. Like beholden to this thing. Ben's entire betting card is Brooks he's bet Brooks, which is his own discussion, and I think you're better off betting Brooks to win than in any prop. But Brooks won at Shinnecock. Fleetwood was second. Finau was there. Berger was there. Like he's bet like all the princes of Shinnecock this week. And you can sort of see it in winning score and conditions. And sure. Andy, who I have great respect for, is kind of on the same wavelength as it pertains to Shinnecock. And Shinnecock, I don't know, Fleetwood missed that like 7-footer for birdie that would have tied Brooks, would have in hindsight tied Brooks. Oh, still hurts.
Yeah, he went off that early Sunday. That was fun to watch.
So yeah, I'm kind of, and all those three of those guys that I mentioned, like I stand for, like with or without a bet, like just if you could ask, like on the short list of guys I want so badly to have like a full narrative flip on. So that's I guess another thing. More pro Berger talk where there hasn't been much, and he withdrew from Mexico, and it's hard to know what to make of that. But
that bothers me a little too. Like that wasn't that long ago, and that bothers me a little. That played into keeping him off.
But who knows what goes into a decision like that? Maybe it's just a small lingering thing, and he's just like, "There's no way I want to like take a step back this close to the major." So you never know. He was okay. I think he T20'd the Heritage, but it has been a while since we have seen him. But any sort of life for Daniel Berger in the last month, you like even if Daniel Berger showed up in Mexico, he's not 75-1 this week either, Andy. He's not.
No.
75, I see 45s, I see 50s. 75 is a
I see 7. I see a 7D.
That's a beautiful number.
That was the reason why I was close, because it's like, geez, that's a big number for a guy who can compete, and it sucks because it's a book that doesn't offer top 20s, so I'm not going to get the derivative built off of that. But it's down to 74 as we speak. So money, Daniel Berger steam in the market right now, guys. Things are happening.
That's better than any stateside legal that's out there.
This is straight out of Costa Rica.
Yeah, so that's a good number. I got 2 down the board. Long and straight guys that I typically like. I'm a sucker for what we see with Cam Young. I got a Cam Young at 80. Again, thinking similar to the Homa thing, at Wells Fargo a couple weeks ago. Just look at where Cam Young has played well. He's played well at long, tough golf courses. It's been really fun to watch. This guy was 496th in the world at this time last year, and is now I'm confidently betting him at a major.
I mean, listen, I bet Will Zalatoris. You're betting Cam Young. I said to Mayo yesterday, I like someone could diss Zalatoris and say, why bet Zalatoris? Just bet Cam Young at double the number. It's the same ask, people. Not just a first win, like not just a first major, a first win. But statistically, holy shit. Like he might be, I don't want to say better, but you could argue like when you factor in the putting stats, he might be a more like complete player than Will. Will's like insanely off the charts in a couple metrics, which make us fall in love. But yeah, I mean, anyone who's got money on Will Zalatoris can't ignore Cam Young because it's very much the same ask for double the number. And I want to go as far to say on Sunday night, guys,
the piss out of the ball too. Like he's
on Sunday night, I was looking for big Cam Young numbers, big. Like okay, like we're here. so many books that I look at, like these offshores, they didn't even have him listed. He wasn't even in their mind. And then to see they put up odds Monday, they leave their futures market, and he's like 66-1. I'm like, a guy you didn't even have yesterday, you can now make 66-1. So that was kind of a kick in the pants, but they're not stupid either, because
that's the worst part about a guy not listed, Jeff, is like, and this is a bad example because eventually they're going to list everybody, but sometimes in these award markets, when you get ahead of it, like, oh, this guy's coming up from AAA, and
yeah, but you don't ask for it, because you keep asking for it, they'll fucking hurt you.
Totally. Exactly. Like, it's like, if I ask for it, then they know I want it.
Exactly.
Like, it drives me up.
You gotta play coy, thinking they're smart, like, oh, they know what's happening in AAA news wires or something.
Yeah, are you not listing this guy? Is this guy injured? Why isn't he on here? I would never bet him personally. That's not for me. Yeah, you gotta like reverse psychology, because it does feel like the moment you ask about somebody, you're like, oh, it's like the
we
bet
even
on
know him,
online.
but we know one guy wants to just bet him, so like, let's not overthink and give him a shitty number. Okay, here you go, pal. Bet your guy to win a 150-man tournament or win this award in 7 months. Good for you. There's nothing bad to say about Cam Young. Who else did you pull off? And then I want to read my list of like bombs that I am thinking. Like,
all right, good. Let's go through that, because I have some guys too that I don't know if they get outright numbers, but they get on the card for sure. Gosh, I'm one of I'm a Keegan sucker.
Oh yeah.
And again, long and straight and dialed in. Bentgrass is actually, he's like almost field average at Bentgrass. So we also have that in our side. Again, he's done this before, actually. This is he did the first win thing here at a major. So, not surprised that it found Keegan at 100. I feel good about 100s. They're mostly gone. I don't see any of those. Maybe you guys have them. It's
the winning score. It's just, you don't hate yourself. You're like, oh, everyone's going to half the field's bogeying that hole. Oh, par won't hurt us here. Winning. Yeah, no, you can. It's almost like not to joke, like the Honda thing. It's like, Keegan can shoot one under a day. Like, he can shoot even par today. He can shoot one over, and we're right in this thing. And I trust him to do that. So yeah.
He's been really good. like shockingly good, like kind of across the board. Like, he's over the last 50 rounds, he is top 20 in strokes gained around the green, approach, off the tee, ball straight. I mean, he's been awesome. It's just putter. He's kind of mid-pack, and even that for him is a win. So again, 80. I mean, at 100, I feel fine about it. Rounding out the card. Jeff, give me some guys that are teetering in consideration here.
Yeah, so because I just have fun, super bombs, and for peace of mind, I might put a couple bucks. So we've already mentioned the Fleetwood one. That one's in. Thank you, Ryan. We'll put the check in the mail. Luke List, we're flirting in that 200-1 area. I can't ignore it. Alex Noren 150. Like, everything is pointing to this guy keeping
hard courses.
This week. I'm a big fan, so I'll even maybe bet a number that should be longer, but I like him so much. I don't want to hate myself. Even if it's just because he's playing well for an hour on Friday and he's close to the top, I'll hate myself if I didn't have it. Bobby Mack, like, flirting with 200. It's the same thing as Mito. Those two guys interchangeable. Cam Champ, like, it's just, if it plays so differently than what we're thinking, he really is going to be in a sweet spot in terms of difficulty. So maybe that's a lane. And then Super Bomb, because we're flirting with 300s, Lonto. That's all. Yeah, I mean, a video I posted yesterday. I don't even need to make a comment. It's a major. They're over 100-1. No comment necessary for any of them. Even though I gave you a comment, but that's the list of bombs for a major that I am potentially playing with.
Yeah, I like the list. I love Noren. Again, playing great golf, hard golf course. All those things make a ton of sense. Woodland, not super bomb.
Oh yeah, shit. Woodland should be on that too.
Okay.
Woodland's got to be on
Love
that.
it.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. Yeah, thank you. Don't want to forget about him. It's only Tuesday. Can still get organized.
Killer Keith.
No, thank you. I'm writing it down because he should have been on that list. See, I don't want to do this.
This is where it's going to be tempted to put $20 on Johnny Vegas, Because if the guy just figures out putting for 4 days, like he can win.
Yeah.
He's got the rest of it. He's like 200 to 1. Why not win $4,000 on Johnny Vegas? I don't feel like
if
happening,
I like you and I believe in you, it's just so much cheaper for me to lose a few bucks before the tournament at their huge numbers than thinking the FOMO when they're, like I saw my buddy PGA tout John Hasselbauer always bets Mito, and then he sucked into betting Mito at like 18 to 1 live next week because in the event last week because God forbid he misses it. Then like obviously Mito's not even a factor in anything. So I'm just preempting for the big live spend. I'm just going to overspend in case any of them catch fire. How's that sound? Okay?
I dig it.
Leave me alone.
And I mean, a lot of these, I talk big about betting them outright, but like Mito, Vegas, List, Henley, Varner, Fitzpatrick, like that's probably my top 20 list. If those guys are getting top 20 bets from me.
Varner.
Maybe somebody like Sergio.
Sergio winning. Okay. Tiger, Spieth, like in fantasy situations, you probably can't compete with that. Not even think about your own personal interest. From the golf narrative story, any of these live guys taking this down, specifically Sergio, would be like an incredible content foam. Okay.
Yeah. Coke rack. I mean,
any of the live guys taking this down would be content foaming. Honestly, even them battling for it. Like,
if any of them has a lead going into Sunday, don't they have to come out with like the Saudi hat on Sunday just to really thumb the nose? Sergio feels like he would.
Yeah,
and that's the thing about Ricky. They will make, if Puma drops him, he can get some stupid, colorful, flat-billed hats. I shouldn't talk today.
Yeah, there's probably some like Saudi airline he could sponsor instead. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying that's something Ricky's got away because you don't want corporate America to bail on you if you're going to make, like, he has corporate America if he wants to stay and be 140th ranked player, or he can go there to make money golfing. He's got a decision, and we'll see. He's not backing away from the press. He's kind of looks like he's being forthright in what's in his head right now.
Yeah, I saw the presser yesterday. It looked like he was, just being honest. It's like, hey, is this a consideration? I have to give it a thought. So here we are. It's interesting to see. So let's win some money, fellas. Let's print this week. Excited for it. We'll share a best bets article. You'll have a thought from each of us later this week on the site. That is free content. The rest of it is most of it behind the paywall, lots of tools, and those are continuing to roll out. If you are looking to get access to the site and you bet other sports, we have an offer this week, buying a betting subscription over at 4for4. See behind me. If you bet football or NBA or MMA, NASCAR, F1, name it. Betting sub over at 4for4 this week only gets you a free subscription to BetSpertsGolf.com. So if you are a fantasy football player, DFS, best ball, bet on any of those sports, great access, great tools, best projections in the space, gives us a massive leg up on prop betting every week. We crush the prop markets, and definitely wanted to get access to that too. So Andy, what else you got for us on the way out?
Not a whole lot. Yeah, just check out those deals.
Newsletter.
If you want to get in the Discord and then sign up for the newsletter. It's in the show notes here. In the show notes, whether you take this as a podcast or on YouTube, sign up for the newsletter. Geneva National, 2-night stay, all the food, the airlines, 18 with Paige. We'll throw in another 36. So you can all 3 courses. They have a cool putting course that you can check out. It's really nice up here this time of year before the humidity kicks in. Like, it is early to mid-June. It's probably the perfect time to visit beautiful Wisconsin. Underrated golf state, kind of. Underrated state. I mean, some of the people are goofy, but underrated state in general. I always had fun out there. So check that out. Yeah, we'll be back next week with winners. Probably just showing all our big tickets that we won off next week. Boom. See ya.